All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about harmless things. Yeah, and doing it in real time for a few real people out here, just like you and just like me. Obviously, I'm going to be on my best behavior because I want to make the overlords happy and love what I do until they change their mind, of course, and then it's off to Publix for me. That's fine. Didn't think I was going to go there, but you never know what I'm going to say. That's the beauty of this channel. It's spontaneous. There's no editing. There's no fancy production whatsoever, and you could tell, right? That's something that I don't get too many complaints about, but yeah, I can understand why people would complain about that. So let's talk about Steve Perry and how he made peace with his late father, Ray Perry. An amazing duet, folks. I've been listening to that duet more and more, and I kind of marvel at the way Steve and his father blend. Like these two voices that don't have that much in common, to be quite honest. But this cassette that Perry found, and then, pulling his father's vocal off of that cassette and getting in the studio and doing some studio magic to it. The blend is pretty remarkable. The song, if you haven't heard it, is Call Me Irresponsible. And there's definitely some irony because apparently his father was rather irresponsible. And it's a bit gut wrenching to listen to it. But he recorded the song and he sent it to his son, I think back in 1993, as a birthday present. And Perry kept it all this time and decided, hey, this, by the way, is a great example of forgiveness and letting go. This is, for all of the religious people out here, this is a better example than I can. You can read scripture. You could say, hey, you really need to forgive your brother. You need to forgive your parents. This is a cathartic, purging moment for Steve Perry, who apparently, according to that big interview with Dan Ruther that he did, he had a rough childhood. It was some kind of abuse. It could have been sexual abuse. It could have been verbal or mental or psychological or all of the above, but it was brand new information when that interview dropped. And I was like, okay, I got to watch. And it was a great interview. I mean, if you haven't seen the full Steve Perry, Dan Rather interview, and I do make fun of Dan because he's just fun to make fun of, but that was a great interview. What I noticed was nobody from the Journey camp weighed in. Like Jonathan Cain didn't step forward and say, whoa, I didn't know Steve had those issues. And same with Neil Sean or Ross Valerie or maybe Steve Smith or anyone else, maybe even Greg Raleigh, who worked with Steve Perry for a while. Um, it's it's kind of unclear if Perry ever spoke to his Journey bandmates about his struggles. He didn't have a lot of trust for those guys. At one point, he said he never felt like he was part of the band, even though later on he was controlling their destiny. And even today has a say in what Journey does to some degree. It's not what they do, but certainly it's more what they earn. I mean, Perry, though, hasn't even sold his rights to the Journey catalog, whereas the other songwriters have basically said, yeah, go ahead. Put our songs in Ozempic commercials. We're cool with that. Perry, not so much. Haven't seen any Journey songs advertising any pharmaceutical products. Are they losing money? Maybe. Journey still hasn't done a Christmas album, but Perry, very smart, because they'll play this in perpetuity for the next 100 years. Now, Perry won't be here all that time, most likely, unless, of course, someone invents a cure for dying, which would be nice. But In any event, actually, Jesus already did that, but let's just say from a medical standpoint, they're able to keep you alive for another 100, 200 years. These songs are going to go on for a very long time. So Perry did a lot of soul searching and he did a lot of forgiving in order to put that duet out with his father. And the technology and pulling his dad's voice and the way those voices blend, his voice and his dad's voice, it's actually very cool. It's different. Some people might compare it to the way Greg Raleigh and Steve Perry blended. Very different voices. Obviously, Ray Perry was a huge influence on his son. And even though they were estranged for many years, the video, if you've watched it for the song Call Me Irresponsible, is this animated sort of stick figure type thing, basic animation. And it goes through Steve's life. And at one point, Steve is at his father's bedside before he passes away. And it's just super sad. Perry continues to be the most sincere member of the Journey franchise, even though he's currently not in the band, because he puts out things that are authentic. The whole Kelly Nash thing, that was also just gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. And people were like, whoa, we may not like Steve Perry, or we don't like Journey with Steve. I mean, there are some hardcore people out there that liked the early years of Journey and thought that maybe Perry, when he got there, messed it up because maybe they liked the whole jazz fusion approach to the band. But nobody's going to argue about if Steve Perry has talent. Nobody's going to argue that he's not one of the great rock and roll voices of all time. His standing should move up the ladder on these superlative lists or whatever. He probably won't because he's not the right kind of music. If he was singing grunge, he'd be at number one. But he's singing stuff that most people consider cheesy or melodic. I don't understand it personally, but if you have a great voice, you have a great voice. I mean, if somebody says the dude from Alice in Chains has a great voice, and I say, okay, but so does Steve Perry, well, you really can't compare the two. You can compare anything. I mean, why can't you compare it? Because you think the style of music is ridiculous and cheesy and hokey and outdated, and nobody likes that kind of music anymore, and we've moved on and we've evolved. I like that one. We've evolved away from music that is melodic and easy to sing. Okay. But anyway, getting back to all the personal stuff with Steve Perry. I mean, for a guy who's a bit of a recluse, when he comes out of hiding, he gives his fans a real glimpse into his life in a way that fuels a lot of discussion. It's not just hype. You know, Journey, the franchise, the last few years, their biggest publicity for that band has come from arguments or disputes within the band. And Perry is out there not arguing with anybody, not disputing with anybody, just going back through his life and talking about things that are important to him. Now, I don't know Steve Perry. I think he and I would probably hit it off and we'd have a good time. And I'd get to ask all kinds of great questions. It would be the most epic of interviews because I would ask the hard questions like, do you like Neil Schon? Do you like Jonathan Cain? And why don't you? If your answer is no, why? What is it about them that gets under your skin? I notice all the interviewers and the podcasters, they stay away from that stuff. And they might be instructed at the beginning, hey, we're just talking about my new single, or we're talking about my new video, or my Christmas album, or whatever it is. And that's fine. I would have to abide by those rules, but I would try to step over the line here and there because I think it would be interesting, just like Perry does in being transparent and being himself. it's real stuff. Perry isn't trying to create good publicity. He doesn't have to. He is the real deal just by being himself. So, in conclusion, this duet with his father will go down as one of the great moments in his recording career, just because he went out there and said, you know what? I love you, Dad. I forgive you, Dad. Um, he made a masterpiece out of something that was kind of left on the side of the road. And I think that is remarkable. And his fans, I think, really appreciate that side of Steve Perry, that he's authentic and he puts himself out there, even if it seems like it's maybe a little bit too much, like it's an overshare. Like I wouldn't go to that length, but you know what? Good for him. Good for him. All right, so I am all done with this video. I want to thank those of you who support this channel for continuing to support this channel. Also, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee if you want to help out. I am currently trying to get monetized again, but this process takes several weeks, and then typically you have to wait several more weeks for it to kick in. And, you know, I had a channel with 82,000 subscribers, and that was basically like a regular income for me. So things have changed a lot in the last 3 months. I'm trying to do this one more time. This will be it, folks. If this doesn't work out for whatever reason, if I get locked out again or I mess up somehow again, then a whole bunch of haters will have their wish, and it'll be fine. It's life goes on, and I will make do with whatever God has for me. So thanks for watching, though. God bless everyone, and we'll see you soon.